through to the Bosnia country deeper, let's take a look at what is Bosnia and Herzegovina. The country itself is actually had a war between 1992 and 1995, and the war itself had catch attention from around the world. And Bosnia is actually a group of Balkan countries consisting Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia. And the attack on the country erupted after the president of Srpska, Radovan Katovic, wanted to control Serbian territory as well as a way to expel the so-called Bosnian Muslim called Turks. Karadzic assisted the Ratko Mladic, the leader of the Republic Army Srpska, is said held a grudge against Ottoman Turks who once conquered the Balkans, including Serbia. The complete ethnic Serbs sought to eradicate Muslims and Croatian ethnic groups. Finally, there was the saddest war and massacre of the people in modern European history, especially in the Muslim majority region. And if we go to the Middle Age, in the Bosnia itself, in the Middle Age, the region became a battle between the influence of Western Rome, which is Catholic, and Eastern Rome, which is Orthodox. In the middle of the struggle, a Christian group called Bogomil appeared. Those who adhere to that beliefs are Bosnian upper class. All three groups were quite influential in the history of the country at end of the 13th century. However, when the Ottoman Turkish government conquered Islam, many followers of the Bogomil sect embraced Islam. In other development, Bosnian Muslims remain defenders of the Ottoman Sultan. When the talk of nationalism permitted, it brought about great changes in Bosnia. And before that, in general, the people of the region are known as Bosnians and are only distinguished by religions. However, after that, Bosnians who are Orthodox Christians are known as Serbs, while Catholic are known as Croats. That's why we have three different Balkan countries, which is Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia, because of the religion itself. And lastly, all the beauty that had left during the war still at there because they want to remember the sad memory, because they did not want to it happen again. And if we can see, if we go there to the Bosnia, we can see, for example, the old bridge was built in 1966 during the reign of Sultan Sulaiman, the 10th Sultan of Ottoman Turkish Empire, and it is still there, and it is recognized as one of the World Heritage.
I'm start with clothes. So for the traditional costume, which is from rural costume of Bosnia and Herzegovina, most of the costume made of wool, flax, ham, and leather. Rural costume of Bosnia differ mutually much. There are significant differences in the way of dressing between vast geographic areas of Bosnia. There are three types of geographic parts distinguished. First is Western Bosnia with Herzegovina, second is Middle Bosnia, and the third is Eastern Bosnia and Posavina. This division of the rural population costume results in three main groups, which is Dinari costume for the Western Bosnia with Herzegovina, and then Central Bosnia costume to the Middle Bosnia and the Eastern Bosnia, and lastly costume of Posavina to Posavina. And then costume of different ethnic group are visible in a small detail of specific parts of dressing and in their colors. They have preserved all basic characteristics of type they belong. And don't worry, Muslim Bosnia wear very similar costume. There are two variations of traditional costume, which is UM, and Highlanders. Costume of cover mostly the western and central Herzegovina, while Highlanders costume are found in the eastern part of Bosnia. Main characteristic of Dinaric costume are flat shirt made in one piece with a right side triangle under the armpit, embroidered on the back side and sleeve at the chest. Motif of the embroidery were geometrical. Muslim shirt in Dinaric had no embroidery, and pants were compulsory part of the woman costume. Then among the upper woolen vest, the most important are zubun, dress and apron. For the zubun, is usually made of coarse fabric to cover hips. Dress is long up to talus, open in front and a triangle on the armpit with a long narrow sleeve. And then for the aprons, Muslim population does not consider an apron as the part of the female costume, neither in the Dinaric areas nor in the other part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And then we go to food. Traditional Bosnia food shares similarities with Turkish and Mediterranean cuisine, a legacy of 400 years of Ottoman rule. Typical dishes include organic meat, usually lamb or beef, to meet a halal requirement. Meals tend to be light and generously portioned of vegetable. So first is sevapi. Sevapi is a oblong-shaped kebab from a lamb and beef served in a somun, which is called Bosnian pita bread with raw onions. Local eats this for lunch, dinner or as a snack. Chef grills the meat and serve between 5 to 10 individual kebabs on a plate with a sour cream sauce. Each restaurant cooks and seasons in a different way, making each sevapi slightly different. And then the second is begova korba. Begova korba, or base soup in English, was an Ottoman favorite. Slow-cooked chicken and vegetables such as carrot, potatoes, and celery boiled into a thick, creamy stew, making a warm appetizer. Base is often served with a sour cream or sauce in a clay bowl, and locals cook and eat this soup especially during holidays and festival. And then is klip. Klip is a Bosnian means eat dumplings. The Balkans are great at dumpling, so clips being the Bosnian version. Imagine a dough stuffed with either tangy cheese or a meat before being steamed into a soft ravagingly light texture. Clip come with a yogurt or garlic sauce and almost melts in the mouth. There are three main architecture styles in Bosnia and Herzegovina. First is Ottoman Empire, second is Austro-Hungarian Empire, and third is Socialist or Yugoslavia era. So for the architecture from the Ottoman Empire ruled Bosnia and Herzegovina for more than 400 years, starting in the late 1400s. Sarajevo architecture from the Ottoman era is notable for its small, dark wooden building, narrow passengers way, clay tile roof, and domes. Within the old town and beyond are many original mosques and minarets from this period. And then for the architecture from Austro-Hungarian Empire, Sarajevo was part of Austria-Hungary from 1848 to 1918, and the architecture produced during this period is typical grand, symmetrical stone building with a decorative flourish, from flowers to geometric shape to balconies to human figure. Most of the Sarajevo buildings from this era are intact and retain their original decorative element. From these two empires, resulting mixing Ottoman and Austro-Hungarian style. This is where Sarajevo architecture gets really interesting. Think exotic keystone arch, colorful street, smooth stone and detailed craftsmanship. Mixing these two styles, likely an overlap of the Ottoman Empire and Austro-Hungarian rule, this really makes Sarajevo architecture unique and beautiful. And lastly, architecture from the socialist or Yugoslavia era to today. When Bosnia and Herzegovina became part of Yugoslavia in 1918, the country's predominant architecture style morphed into drab, communist-inspired concrete block buildings with a flat roof. When Sarajevo hosted the Olympic in 1984, concrete was worked so much, so the building during this period uses concrete. Following the siege of Sarajevo in 1990, much of the city was damaged, so concrete building again was used in a new construction.
Go to the lifestyle in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So in Bosnian, lifestyle is heavily influenced by its rich heritage. It means the cultural diversity is the very core of the country. So the population is divided into many groups, but a majority of them in Bosnia are Bosnian, Serbs and Croats. So that the people in Jewish, Albanian, Romanian and Turkish descent live peacefully alongside other groups despite differences in their belief. So their diversity in Bosnia is also evident in social norms, religious and cultural festivals, music, art and cuisine. So the family ties in Bosnia also are very strong, and friendship and neighborhood also are well developed. So that got no problem in Bosnia about the lifestyle. So next we go to the communication. In Bosnia, they have a direct communication style. It means they speak straight to the point, being quite forward and open about what they believe, as they rely less on a subtle form of communication. They can give the incidental impression of being quiet, blunt. So it means the direct communication involve explicit communication patterns that do not rely on the surrounding context to give meaning. So next we go to the traditional game in Bosnia. So the Bosnian like to play a card. So the first version of playing card named Briskula is played using a 32 card pack. So in each suit they got A, 10, K, Q, J, 9, 7 and 8. So next is Zandari. Zandari is a fishing game played with a standard 52 card pack with scores for most cards, most club, 2 of club and 10 of diamond, in which a jack can take all the cards from the table. So that is a two type of game card in Bosnia. So now we go for the martial arts. So the boxing and karate is very famous in Bosnia because of the achievement before in their country. So the first is boxing. So the athlete boxing, which is boxer named Marijan Benes, won the European Boxing Union title in the light welterweight in 1979. So that is very good achievement in boxing. So next we go for the karate. For the karate, athlete named Ivona Kava, which is a woman, won the bronze world championships leading women's Bosnian karate. So the two very good achievement that causes famous of the boxing and karate in Bosnia.
So for the people who had reached Bosnia, this is the top places that we must go. So for the first place is we must go to Gazi Husrev Beg Mosque. The mosque is built in the 1532. It is the largest historical mosque in the country, and it is the center of the city's Islamic community. It is exemplary of the Ottoman architecture for which the city is well known, and it is open for tourists to look around. Outside is a beautiful open courtyard with a fountain for ceremonial washing, and the main entrance is decorated with the intricate Islamic design and pattern. It has a number of domes, which are typical feature of Ottoman mosque rather than Middle Eastern architectural design. Although much of it was damaged during the Civil War, in 1996, the reconstruction is the priority for the country, and given its centrality to the culture of the country. The second place that we must go is the Latin Bridge. The Latin Bridge is one of the most well-known events that took place in it, which is the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The event that sparked the outbreak of the First World War. The assassination also took place just by the Latin Bridge, one of the oldest Ottoman bridges in the city that is thought to have been built sometime in around mid-16th century. The bridge itself is small, with three archways where the assassination took place. And the third place is Kovaci Memorial Cemetery. It is part of Sarajevo's most recent history in the tragic and bloody civil war that took place in early of 1990. So Sarajevo was one of the key battlegrounds between Serb and Bosniak force, including a siege that lasted almost 4 years. The Kovaci Memorial Cemetery is specifically for the Bosniaks that were lost during the siege while defending themselves from Serb aggressors, and consequently it is also known as the Martyrs Cemetery.
The comparison between Malaysia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. First of all, let me just say Bosnia and Herzegovina is a good place to visit because it differs a little more from Malaysia. So I'll be presenting my points. First of all, as you know, Malaysia is a tropical country which makes it hot and humid. This is because Malaysia is on the equator. But in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it is much more colder and drier because it is located far in the Europe. Plus, it has 4 seasons, which we in Malaysia do not experience. So it may be best for us to try something new at Bosnia and Herzegovina. So second point is religion. In Malaysia, you are free to practice any faith, but in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there are mainly 2 religions, which are Islam and Christianity. So you may not see any other faith practice in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The third point is the natural landscape. We in Malaysia know that most places in Malaysia is just on the flat surface, which is just above sea level. This is because Malaysia is a country with jungle, plains, and wetlands. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, there are lots of places. There are plains in Bosnia too, but in Bosnia there are mountains and mountains and cliffs and jungles and tundra. So a lot of various places. There are, as a Malaysian, new too. You might as well try it out because we didn't have that much various landscape. So that is the main points that you can compare with Malaysia and Bosnia. So other things that I would like to add is like Bosnia has quiet a clean air. This is because of its nature and low pollutions. Moreover, in Bosnia you can go shopping for a low price. So if you are a shopaholic, you might as well like it to be there because there are lots of things to buy, such as carpets, jewelry and all.